The Betrayal of Black Women, America's Economic Bait and Switch. Good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining me today for what might be an uncomfortable but necessary conversation about economic justice in America. I recently had the extraordinary privilege of interviewing Charlie Russell, the visionary creator behind the Soft Girl Era podcast and a revolutionary force in the fight for Black women's economic liberation. What makes Charlie exceptional isn't just her brilliant mind or her fearless advocacy, it's her unique ability to transform raw data into wisdom that changes lives. Through her groundbreaking work, she's created a sanctuary where Black women can embrace their softness while still commanding their worth in a world that consistently undervalues both. Charlie doesn't just talk about change, she embodies it, showing thousands of women how to turn survival into thriving, exhaustion into fulfillment, and economic obstacles into pathways to freedom. Today, I want to share with you some profound insights from our conversation that challenge one of America's most cherished myths, the idea that economic progress lifts all boats equally. This belief is comforting, it's simple, and based on the latest economic data Charlie shared with me, it's fundamentally wrong. In April 2025, headlines across the nation celebrated as the US economy added 177,000 jobs. Politicians took credit, financial analysts nodded approvingly, Wall Street celebrated, but buried beneath these glowing reports was a disturbing reality. During this same period of supposed economic vitality, Black women lost 106,000 jobs. Let that sink in for a moment. Dot, comma, comma, comma. While the economy was growing, Black women were being systematically pushed out of it. This wasn't a minor statistical fluctuation. It represented the steepest decline of any demographic group in the workforce. This stark contradiction reveals something profound about how our economy actually functions. What we call economic growth often masks deeply uneven progress across racial and gender lines. The rising tide, it seems, is quite selective about which boats it chooses to lift. What makes this particularly troubling is that Black women consistently demonstrate higher labor force participation rates than other demographics of women. The data shows Black women's dedication to work, their commitment to providing for their families, their persistence in pursuing education and advancement. Yet this dedication hasn't translated into job security or pay equity. This challenges another cherished American belief that simply working harder leads to economic stability and advancement. The evidence suggests otherwise. The Bureau of Labor Statistics report that Charlie shared with me reveals that Black women's unemployment rate jumped to 6.1% in April 2025, a significant increase from the previous 5.1%. This widening gap isn't random. According to experts at Creative Investment Research, it appears to be part of what they describe as a coordinated rollback affecting Black women's economic position. But the crisis extends beyond employment numbers. The Institute for Women's Policy Research has been tracking women's economic security for decades, with particular attention to intersectional factors affecting Black women. Their comprehensive analysis across all 50 states documenting pay disparities tells a devastating story. Despite years of awareness campaigns and corporate pledges, Black women working full time, year round, still earn just 69.1 cents for every dollar paid to white men. In some states like Louisiana, this drops to a mere 49.6 cents on the dollar. The pay gap hasn't significantly improved in decades, with women overall still earning only 83 cents for every dollar earned by men. in 2025. For Black women specifically, the gap represents a loss of approximately $900,000 over a 40-year career. Think about what that means. Think about the homes not purchased, the educational opportunities foregone, the retirement security sacrificed, the generational wealth not built, the dreams deferred or abandoned entirely. This isn't just about numbers on a spreadsheet, it's about lives shaped by systematic economic exclusion. The third key insight from my conversation with Charli concerns occupational segregation. Black women remain overrepresented in low wage industries like care work, cleaning, education, and food service. This occupational segregation, combined with barriers to advancement, creates a structural trap that limits economic mobility regardless of individual effort or qualifications. Now, you might be wondering, why is this happening? Why in 2025 are we seeing such dramatic economic regression for Black women? Creative investment research has specialized in analyzing diversity in corporate America, tracking both public commitments and actual outcomes. Their team conducted a longitudinal analysis of corporate DEI commitments and hiring retention patterns. Their research found a direct correlation between DEI program reductions and job losses among Black women. As companies scaled back diversity initiatives, often in response to political pressure or claims of reverse discrimination, Black women were disproportionately affected. In April 2025 alone, over 100,000 Black women lost their jobs as these programs were dismantled. This reveals something crucial about the nature of progress in America. The economic gains that Black women have made over the past decades have been fragile, contingent, and easily reversed. The systems that were supposed to ensure equity have proven to be alarmingly vulnerable to political and cultural backlash. The Bureau of Labor Statistics has tracked employment data by race and gender for decades, allowing for a historical comparison of current trends. Their statistical foundation has revealed the disproportionate impact of recent economic shifts on Black women, prompting calls for targeted economic interventions from policy advocates and lawmakers. But here's the uncomfortable truth: despite all this research, despite all the corporate pledges and diversity initiatives, despite all the awareness campaigns and policy proposals, the fundamental economic position of Black women in America remains precarious. This raises profound questions about the nature of our economic system itself. Is the problem simply that we haven't tried hard enough to create equity within existing structures? Or is there something about those structures themselves that inherently produces these disparities? Charli Russell suggests the latter. In our interview, she challenged me to consider what true economic liberation would look like for Black women. This isn't just about getting a seat at someone else's table, she said. It's about building our own tables with stronger foundations. This perspective shifts the conversation from one of inclusion within existing economic structures to one of transformation and creation of new structures. It's not about fighting for scraps from an inequitable system. It's about reimagining what an equitable system would look like in the first place. But perhaps the most powerful insight from my conversation with Charli was this: resilience cannot depend on corporate DEI initiatives that can be rolled back with changing political winds. True economic security for Black women requires building independent economic structures that aren't vulnerable to the whims of corporate priorities or political backlash. This isn't just a challenge for Black women, it's a challenge for all of us who believe in the possibility of an economy that works for everyone. Because the truth is, an economy that systematically excludes Black women is failing all of us. It's failing to harness the full potential of our workforce. It's failing to create the innovation that comes from diverse perspectives. It's failing to build the shared prosperity that makes societies stable and sustainable. As Maya Angelou wisely observed, when one of us rises, we all rise. The economic marginalization of Black women isn't just their problem, it's America's problem. So, where do we go from here? First, we need to acknowledge the reality of what's happening. We need to look beyond the headline economic numbers and ask who is benefiting and who is being left behind. We need to recognize that progress is not inevitable, that gains can be reversed, and that the systems we've built to create equity are more fragile than we thought. Second, we need to support the creation of Black women centered economic structures. This means investing in Black women owned businesses, creating financial institutions that serve Black women's needs, and building networks of mutual support and resource sharing that aren't dependent on corporate or government goodwill. Third, we need to transform our understanding of what economic success looks like. As Charli reminded me, in the soft girl era, we turn down the noise, turn up the pleasure, and teach the world that a soft Black woman is a dangerous thing to underestimate. This means rejecting the notion that exploitation and burnout are necessary costs of economic advancement. It means creating economies of care rather than economies of extraction. The data is clear. The challenge is evident. The opportunity is before us. I want to leave you with this. What would our world look like if we designed economic systems that actually work for those who have been most marginalized? What innovations might emerge if Black women's economic liberation became a central priority rather than an afterthought? What kind of society might we build if we recognize that the true measure of our economy isn't the wealth of a few, but the well being of the many? This isn't just a moral imperative, though that should be enough. It's a practical necessity for creating a more innovative, resilient, and prosperous society. When we build economies that work for Black women, we build economies that work for everyone. The question isn't whether we can afford to transform our economic systems. The question is whether we can afford not to. The answer is in your hands. What will you do with it? Thank you